What's up, everybody? It's your favorite, beautiful, ugliest favorite nerd, and today we are looking at this Hero Hobby City Captain. Once again, this is on loan to me from Robert D, because who else would buy this? I mean, really. I'm kidding, it's fine. Well, we'll talk about it, but this is on loan from me from Robert D, and he sent it to me because he saw that I didn't have much Transformer stuff going on recently, so he wanted to send me some stuff, and he sent me all this stuff we've been looking at recently, so that's the story to that. There's a fair amount to talk about here, but let's start with accessories. So he came with this gun, and as you can see, you can hold it with tension, and you can transform this into a hammer. Please, hammer, don't hurt him. By rotating, pulling this down, and then rotating the white rod, so to speak. And then you need to kind of manipulate the forearm so that he can hold it, and then you need to kind of put it in his hand as you're closing it, which is a little bit of a bear, but I ultimately think it's worth it because I think that's a pretty cool look. I'm not against stuff like this. A lot of like import stuff has weapons that you need to kind of follow a certain way of doing business in order to get to work. And this, I'm used to it. This is no different, and it doesn't bother me. It's just something that you need to be aware of in order to work around it. And then he also has two shoulder missile pods. They plug in from here into a port. And then the missiles themselves, they're supposed to fire. And I can't help but think there's a better way to do it than what I'm doing, but let's see. I don't know. I can't really get them to launch. Let me try the other one. Oh, okay. So this one works a little bit better than the other one. But I found that if you put them both in, you keep the kind of button forward and then push down, it'll load the tension, and then it'll fire a little bit, which I think is good enough, honestly. And before we get to looking at the figure, I want to go over the gimmicks as well. Just as a heads up, he stands about to the top of his antenna, a little over 5.5 inches, and he has a couple gimmicks. So first of all, this piece here has a tendency to flop down. It'll probably be like that most of the review because I just shove it down because it ends up getting in my way. But it can stand up, just so you know. We'll flip this up. You can flip this face in, and then you can flip this face out, and then you can have the screaming face, the "What did I tell you about leaving the door open when it's hot outside? Am I heating the outside?" Oh, classic. So we'll lift that back up, and we'll flip that in, and we'll bring this one forward. All right. He also has a matrix. If you open all this up and this up, just like the movie kind of, and then you can get this out. And this has translucent blue in the center and then gold painted around for the matrix itself, and then it has a little imprint so that you know which way it goes back in, and then we'll flip all that back up. And now let's look at him. So let's talk about the figure. It kind of has a lot of the same problems that the Grimlock had that we just looked at recently, and this one, I don't know I think this one is a little worse, but I haven't totally made my mind up yet. A lot of the same good stuff too, though, so let's get going. Translucent blue eyes, which is probably not the best way to do business. I don't know if they light up or anything. I don't see a button. The antennas here do contract and expand depending on your sensibilities. The super deformed head. Nice little face sculpt in there. It is a little dull. Like the facial expression is a little dull, so you don't really see it. It could have been a little sharper. It's on a ball peg. You get down, up, swivel, so I think that ultimately that's okay. We have a shoulder joint, which is another ball peg, but it's attached to a hinge. You can collapse these shoulders a little bit in order to kind of cheat the system if you'd like, but with the shoulders, I mean, that's always a problem with Magnus. It kind of gets in the way. You do get the swivel, no problem. And using just the ball peg, and I mean, you can get a little bit. And for these guys, like we said before, we're not going to be putting these guys in the most dynamic of poses. We're just kind of going to get them posed and looking, you know what, and then good to go. Bicep swivel, double jointed elbow, which gets you a pretty decent range. All things fair, all things equal, all things being equal. What am I doing? Wrist swivel. fingers on a base pin knuckle like the Grimlock. This, so in order to do the axe, you had to swivel at the bicep and then swivel the hand back. Or you could just swivel the hand to the side, but then he's always holding it to the side unless you know, it's just a workaround. You'll be fine. Don't worry about it. Don't you stress about it. Do you know what I mean? Silver paint there on the chest, some translucent inside there. Waist swivel. He's a bit back heavy because he's got a lot of kind of mass back here, and the legs aren't the best. But, you know, once you have him posed, let's see, before I make a liar out of myself, you should be fine, I think. We have a universal down here for the hip. So that gets you, it's actually ratcheted, which is crazy. It might be the full Monty. Full Monty, full Van Damme. So that's pretty impressive. Thigh swivel is built around the universal at the it's at the base of the universal, right? And then the the sculpt comes up and around the joint. So that's actually really well done in terms of, you know, engineering. All right, knee ratcheted hinge gets you more than you would need, I think. And the leg. So this piece has a tendency to untab, and if it untabs, the leg can collapse, and then you can't get it tabbed in. So as you're posing him, you want to make sure that you kind of keep some pressure here to get the pose that you want and then put it into place. We got some red paint and some black paint, I think, down in this area. Some translucent plastics. Ankles, no tilt, but we do have a rocker right there at the toe to kind of cheat for an ankle rocker, and I think that's good enough for a figure this size. So yeah, this one probably isn't as effective overall as the Grimlock, but at the same time, there is a lot of good going for it. It's just, you know, it's just got some issues, and the issues are a bit more problematic because the engineering is a bit more involved, I think, honestly. So let's transform him. Push the antennas down and his like headpiece down, and you want to smush his head as tight as you can, and it's hard to feel when it's right, but we'll get to it later. Open this up. This up. You gotta take this, flip this down and then around, and it'll go back in. And then you want to flip these side panels down here. Now once you have that on the back, we're gonna push up to get these white panels out of the way, and we're gonna extend the cab as far as she goes. And then we're going to flip this head down and around. And this is very scary. There. And then we're going to collapse it. There and there. We'll extend this, and once you have this, let's see, you want to swivel the cab around to the opposite side. Then for the arms, make a fist, extend these out, typical, right? What you would expect. And then we're going to rotate here and bring the arms up. And then we're going to peg them into themselves. And flip this piece up and around. So then we're going to take the feet, and I'll show you on this one first. We're going to untab this. It's probably come untabbed anyway. Let me see if I can't get a better angle for you. Let's start with this one since it's tabbed in. Extend this. This comes down. Collapse, and that comes down. And this armature slides to the back, and this extends so that it'll sit kind of like that. And the same thing is done on this side. And then this armature to the back and extends. And this is the part that really sucks. And it's just a matter of, I don't think I have this pegged in all the way, but it's a matter of getting all of this to kind of lock into place. And I'm telling you right now, I'm not going to take too much time with it. So this needs to come down. All of this stuff, like these two tabs here, the gray tabs, they tab in to there in the crotch, and then these red tabs kind of sit within the screw, I believe. And then this stuff comes down, and it all kind of locks in, but we're just gonna do the best we can. Alright, and that's going to be about as much as we do today. And I did, of course, I forgot a step. There's a little tab here that if you rotate up, it'll bring these smokestacks up. You can still kind of access it. There it is. Size comparison wise, there it is with Omniconics. Grab the wrong yellow car. Tiger Tracks. So, yeah, and then you can have your shoulder pods nestled in and such, but it's fine. It's honestly, there's a lot of really interesting engineering in this. You know, you get a little bit of a tilt. There really is. There's a lot of really, like, all the way that the arms, the way that the cab transforms, there's a lot of really cool stuff that goes on. This last step of getting everything lined up right, and as you can see, mine's not 100% in there, but I think for review purposes, it's close enough. It's a little frustrating. It's a little on the frustrating side, but it's not hateful, and it's not frustrating to the point where it's not fun. Do you know what I mean? It's a fun little transformation, and I think he's pretty cool. Blue translucent windows and such, some nice silver detailings and red paint and translucence, and I think it works. I think it's a pretty cool and interesting little attempt. And look, I ended up feeling guilty. I feel like I was taking a shortcut with not showing you how he looked with the missiles plugged into the side, so there that is. Final thoughts wise, it's a soft recommend for me ultimately, and not because of the same issues that the Grimlock has, but for different ones. For one, that the last step of the transformation is fairly frustrating. Secondly, there's a lot of stress marks on this guy. There's a stress mark at the hinge where the piece turns inside the chest. There's a stress mark on some of the tabs in the back that tab into the arms. So a lot of small plastics and such. Add that to the fact that he does have some balance issues and some kind of fiddly issues with stuff staying tabbed in, and it's enough for me to say, I guess if you're a big Ultra Magnus fan, fine, but it's a very soft recommend for me. There is good stuff here, though. He is adorable. He's a cool little Magnus. There's the paint that is applied well. Tons of sculpted detail. Materials feel good. We got die cast. We got translucent parts. So the transformation is fun. You know, even that last step, it doesn't take away from how much the rest of it is fairly enjoyable. So it's a recommend for me, but a very soft recommend. I think if you're a huge fan of the character, you'll enjoy the piece. But outside of that, I would say probably a pass. Other than that, thanks for listening. Oh, I got a story coming. A little story coming at the end of the video that has nothing to do with Ultra Magnus, but you'll see why it was on my mind this morning. So thanks for listening. Thanks for watching. Until next time, take care. So years ago, my wife invited me to a dinner with her grandparents at her grandparents' house, and my wife and myself and my in-laws aren't always on the same page. It's been an ongoing thing. My wife and I dated since we were 15 years old, and it's always been this way. I thought it would get better in time, and it really hasn't. So she said, "We're going to get a nice meal." I said, "Okay, fine." So I went. And when I got there, they had chainsaws in some trees they were cutting down in her grandmother's yard. And then I realized, oh, that's why I'm here. So I assisted with the chainsaw stuff, and I don't mind doing that. I think it's kind of fun in its own way. It wasn't a big deal. But I was wearing my favorite sweatshirt, my favorite hoodie, and I'm a hoodie guy. A tree caught the pocket of my hoodie and ripped it, and I was mortified. My wife was like, don't worry about it. I'll sew it up when we get home. Now, this is about 2006. You think she did it? Think she fixed that for me for my special dinner? Or do you think that maybe she... Look at this. Ruined. So soft, too.